Hey guys, this is Anan, and I have a bunch of gameplay together today on the FV215b 183 Star Destroyer. This is one of the most requested tanks I get for videos and on the Twitch stream, so I decided just to basically grind it for video content a couple weeks ago, and ended up with this stretch here that we're going to show about, I don't know, probably 7 out of 10 games with just big damage. I just got on a good run with it, so decided to kind of put these together. So I'm going to talk about a lot of different things through the course of these games and kind of put it together in pieces so that we don't get bored together. So pulled up here in kind of a common sniping spot to start with, and I actually started with this particular gameplay because I feel like it's very typical of how a decent game will go in this tank. It's a pretty boring game, but does a lot of damage with it if you're handling it correctly. So with that 0 gun depression, I'm I'm trying every possible angle here to try and get a shot on the ISU, and it's just extremely difficult because the no gun depression and the kind of funky turret makes it slightly challenging. And then you get that great RNG that happens on Hesh shells in this tank, and probably nicked the tracks and only did 500 damage instead of destroying him. All things that are really typical with this tank. And then follow it up instantly with a T-30 coming up and a beautiful shot into his engine compartment with a really nice Hesh roll. So this is just kind of how it goes with this tank. So you can see I'm really trying to not be spotted here until the T-62 does, and now at this point it's kind of just waiting to see if anything is going to get shots on me, or I'm probably going to have to relocate, which then there's a sniper up from the bridge area, which you kind of expect, and I'm hanging in a little bit because the T-62 backed up, hoping to reset my camo. And this tank just takes a lot to kind of relocate. But then when the 62 rolls back, I decide I probably need to start pushing forward and do some damage with it. So I'm pushing up here a little bit. Again, just trying to pick shots. It's such kind of a funky tank and how you have to handle it. It's very much that sniper roll where you poke out, take a shot, roll back, let your camo reset, which is actually difficult to do because of the low camo rating. But at the same time, it's an incredibly fun tank because it can change the game. And then you get shots like this that really don't make any sense. A nice slim target that I'm aiming for and a nice 1400 damage Hesh roll. You can see I carry 6 and 6 on the ammo. I don't carry any of the cheap Hesh because it's tier 10. This tank is not going to make credits no matter what you do. You can have a mastery game in it and it's not going to make credits. It's just the way it is, and lots of ammo switching. So I switch here because I know I'm going to average about 900 roll and I don't need to waste that Hesh shot on the E75. You really have to it helps a lot to learn where Hesh is going to be valuable to you. So I switch back and pop adrenaline because I really want this T-62 to go. Again, I get kind of a bad shot where it nicks some of the tracks and some of that armor, so I don't get a big roll but set him on fire. And now switch to AP because it's just going to be easier to hit him with AP to get that guaranteed damage roll that I want. And again, typical game for this tank. So now it's a 2 versus 2. And this T-62 is able to avoid me a lot. This is going to end up being a lot of kind of chase around the maps, but again, I'm looking for angles. I start to back up because it's one of the few ways I'd be able to get my gun on him kind of in that situation. Now it's a 1 versus 2. I know one was sniping over the bridge, and this T-62 is going to do everything he can to avoid my barrel coming down along his hole. So it's just a matter of chasing him because if I don't kill this 62 and he is able to get behind me, I'm probably going to lose the game. So just kind of this ridiculous chase around, hoping to get the gun around. Doesn't happen. I bounce a shell from that bridge area, so I know that that's still where the IS-3 is kind of hanging out. But he's not really a concern at this point. I need to chase down the 62, so I'm just kind of trying to cut across and pick up that shell any way I can. like I said, this game is very, very real. The other ones, I think, show a lot of different attributes of this tank, but this one, if you're going to win in it and do big damage, sometimes this is just how it goes. 62 made a mistake of not going wider. He probably should have, if I were him, I would have circled back around and gone to my other tank. And that way you can kind of get a combined spot or wait to see if I cap, something along those lines. I know it's an IS-3. If he's full health, he's a 2-shot unless he gets an ammo rack, so I decide to at least go look for him. I don't have time to cap because I'm down to a minute at this point. He pops up, which is beautiful, and drops down. I know the IS-3 has some weak spots in the front that Hesh can pen, so as I pull up here, I load the Hesh. You can see that nice gray area and the RNG 631 low roll. So, and of course now with his auto loader, he probably should have me on reload, come and pops one into me, but I also don't know how many shells he has loaded. I start pushing him because I can see I'm going to get the reload and probably just have a one-shot opportunity and luckily get that into him for the win. But like I said, it's not very exciting. Yes, it can do some big damage, but you get trolled just as much. I think I had more troll shots than I had Hesh shots do full damage in that game. So still big damage. It's funny how it sneakily racks it up when you feel like you're even getting trolled by the gun. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to Desert Sands and a very different kind of battle. This isn't a tank that you can really work ridgelines so much because you're probably going to get spotted, and this is a small enough map that it's going to be pretty hard to stay back and snipe, and also because of all the stuff in between. So I handle it a bit differently with this tank. You can also say I always start with Hesh loaded, and it's partially because I can switch really quickly if I run into a situation, but if you get a tank spot really quickly, there's always a good possibility it's not going to be the front of a tank, and so I like to be able to get that quick shot off for big damage if I can. So anyway, so I'm pulling up, trying to get, this isn't really good side scraping tank, but it's about minimizing your cross section a little bit. I switched to the AP because I know if that IS-7 is side scraping and backs up too far, I'm going to be able to sneak one into his pike. That doesn't really work out. He knows I'm there, so that doesn't work. And I see the 183 switch back to Hesh because I know the side of his tank will absorb it. Unfortunately there, I think I hit his mantlet. Or close to that gun, which wasn't going to take the Hesh shot. It's just kind of a gamble. I feel like this is the gambler's tank. If you're going for the big Hesh shots, which is what you want, there's a very strong chance that you're going to do absolutely nothing, or a shot like that, where I really had pretty good aim reticle on it, and it sails wide just because the troll nature of this gun. So but then you can come back immediately after this, land 5 or 6 Hesh shots, and all of a sudden you've done 6,000 damage. So it's just kind of the nature of it. I really don't want this Star Destroyer to kind of work around behind us, so I decide to push him and get the shot kind of up high, which lets me also spot this 44 that's trying to run in and flank. This isn't a normal roll for the Star Destroyer, but unfortunately I'm the only one back here, so I kind of decide that I need to just kind of push this area and keep protecting our flank. Able to get that Hesh round into his hull above the tracks. It's kind of a sneaky little shot there, but when you can get it, obviously it does big damage. So this lets me roll back around because I pretty much know where everybody is at this point. I can see the pattern, so instead of running kind of back in, I decide to poke this direction and see if I can't get a shell into him. See a nice little sliver of his engine hatch and luckily get some good luck. Again, it's the gambler's tank. Rolled the dice and it came up perfect that time, where you can see other shots that has no chance whatsoever. So switch back around to this IS-7 and switch to AP because it has a better chance, I've found, of getting the ammo rack. Just because it penetrates better, but don't get it. I'm always hoping for it when I see an IS-7, but you obviously can't depend on something like that. IS-7 rolls away, so I'm trying to help my IS-7 with their 704, and I'm able to get that shot in. AP is always more dependable, so that's why you see me using that ammo when it's a tank under 900 hit points, and and especially from the front, because Hesh just isn't going to dependably do a lot of damage there. I actually got a little lucky with that Hesh shell because he was starting to rotate and not give me the full penetration. It's actually funny. I never call stuff, but I see the pool's possibility, so I'm sneaking in and trying to get that kill. I think it's funny that both the teammates neg it off. It's not. I wouldn't consider that a kill steal, but it is what it is. Anyway, so this is also what's interesting about. I feel like the ace on this tank is completely dependent on what you spot. Obviously, I have a lot more damage games, but the fact that I was actually able to see a few tanks first kind of seals off that ace. So, moving on to dead rails. I get that meh because I'm against a really good platoon, and we have run into each other quite a few times in this stretch. Two very, very good players. And I think the game before this, they spanked me pretty hard. So just kind of what happens. But I'm also rolling the dice on running this thing solo at the moment. So originally I'm thinking I'm going to set up for a sniping position, but then change my mind and decide to roll up a little bit, thinking that if my team spots anybody in the valley, I can still turn around up here, but it gives me a little more versatility because a good platoon like that is more likely to go up into the hills because it's a more advantageous position. So instead, I decide to come up here, like I said, and just kind of see what happens. I also hold back because I'm waiting to see what's spotted, but then instantly we start to see the tank show up, and it's a good indication that I kind of made the right call there. And and this is another kind of nice example of how this tank just works out. I'm pretty much going to make my living in this battle right here from this position and just moving around and aiming for different shots. It's partially because I've got good spotters up there. And there's really no reason to roll forward more. Yeah, I might hit a few more shots because the accuracy is suspect on this tank, but this is one of those guns you want to keep in the game as long as possible because, like I said, you can change it in one shell. So just kind of keeping an eye on what's going on. I've missed 2 to start the game, which is unfortunate, but it also not unprecedented in this Star Destroyer. And just kind of waiting for stuff to move here a little bit. I can see one of the nice platoon mates starting to roll up. So obviously, if all things are equal, I will take the shot on him versus one of the other tanks up here, even if they're low health. One thing you always have to consider with this tank, especially early in the game, is which tanks you're shooting at. That 62 I know is a one-shot, but if I have a choice between the IS-7 at almost full health and the 62, I'm going to choose the higher health tank. It kind of goes against wisdom, but it's because this tank does so much big damage that firing a shell for 60 damage just in my opinion is a little bit of a waste of it. I get spotted, so I roll back, and that's part of why I chose the spot, is it gives me both hard cover and this bush to reset my camo with. Because I don't want to relocate if I don't have to. Pretty much any other place I could go from this point is not going to give me as many shots as they move around, and so that's something I'm kind of keeping in mind. Their destroyer starts to peek out a little bit, and that's why I switched to Hesh. Again, it's just knowing what tanks you might be shooting at. That's why I switched quite a bit with this tank. Looking for that sneaky shot on the E100. Probably hit the barrel there or missed completely, but you know it was not the most advised shot, but it was the only tank that was spotted at the moment. So sometimes you just have to go for it. Now I'm getting some of the bigger guns, relocating a little bit. Switch to Hesh because I'm looking for that cheek shot and get the big one, which is fantastic. There's nothing better than a perfectly connected Hesh shot in this tank. It makes you remember why you're driving it. Now looking for it in the E4 because he's starting to push around, and also because I don't want him to go up that hill and kind of have a flank shot. Also, what you get, I feel like the Star Destroyer can be on a similar level of the Leo 1 in that you get raged at quite a bit because people think you're not doing your job when you're hiding while you reload, or they don't see you shooting enough because of the slow reload. It's just kind of the nature of this tank. You have to pick your battles and not rush for it. So that was big to get the E100, and now we're on a 4-2 situation, which is much, much better. I was trying to hang out and get that E4, but either way, decided to roll forward, and luckily our E100 gets him. So now we just have this one good platoon tank left, and a 1 versus 3. And like I said, there's sometimes battles in this tank are just not glamorous. It's just kind of how it works. But you have to do everything you can to conserve your hit points, because you're only going to get so many shells off in the course of a battle, and so you don't want to waste it. And the longer you're alive, the more shots you're going to get to fire off. So again, big damage, happens pretty sneakily. I only connect on so many shots, but when every shot that you do connect with does that much damage, it surely affects the team quite a bit. Okay, so switching over to Mirage now. This is a map that can be a little challenging for a tank like this. It's large, which is good, so it lets you sit back in kind of that third row of tanks and snipe a little bit, but it also has a lot of hills, and the complete lack of gun depression on this tank makes it a little challenging to use in the hills, so you have to approach it a little bit different. You can either kind of sit on top of a hill and risk being spotted and roll kind of back off of it after you've taken that shot on the reload, or you can sit on the sides of it and try and poke around. But if you get that long front end up the side of the hill at all, then you're not going to be able to get your gun down unless you get the right angle. So it's just something you have to be a little bit careful of and get used to in this tank, which I think is par for the course. A lot of this tank is just kind of getting used to it. My first 100 games didn't go super well in it, but kind of stuck with it. And now I feel like I really have this tank mastered. It can do big damage pretty dependably in it, but it's got one of the longer learning curves. I would say it is definitely one of the most difficult tanks in the game to play and play well, but mastered, obviously, it can really have a big impact. So I start to set up over on the side because I want to go up on the hill, but we round into most of the team, so that's not something that's really going to work. Able to delete this 268 here pretty quick, and I'm just waiting for the reload. Keeping an eye on the minimap, I can see that we've got 2 up on the hill where I wanted to go, with a third kind of on the edge, and another one was pushing back in that waterfall area, so we have a pretty good handle on where the tanks are in this game. Once they start to push behind, that's when I circle back around, because being flanked in this tank isn't great. It has good traverse speed, so it's actually pretty hard to circle unless you get flat on the back of it, or get a nice side hug going. But either way, it doesn't get circled super well because it traverses at a decent clip and has that little bit of turret movement. But either way, I don't want to be flanked. Looking for that nice lower plate headshot and get it. This tank's also a little bit different, and it goes against conventional thinking as far as trading shots. On pretty much any tank in this game, I don't want to be shot trading, because that's just not how you keep your damage ratio up and help carry battles. But I will trade a shot most of the time in this tank, because 9 to 1500 damage versus your at most 500 damage shot is quite a bit different. And so as long as you're not trading every single time, you definitely can walk out and go ahead and trade that shot for the big change. So pushing up on the IS-3, I can see the object is circling back around, but I'm just trying to get rid of the tank that's right in front of me, and especially off this hill. Now I kind of figure that 140 is going to push me, and he does. But I'm also just trying not to let him get by me, because I can see I have help coming up behind. So unfortunately with the track city he's able to do it, but can get the circle, and actually a pretty lucky shot there. That's pretty challenging to do, and we'll miss quite a few times, but was still able to kind of sneak it in there. And now can kind of move around and hunt for that last shot. Team gets it, so nice 4 tank advantage win. But again, kind of that sneaky damage. I connected on a lot higher ratio of shots there. RNG was blessing me, and I'm able to do that big damage, but also a good example of losing credits. I mean, you fire a couple Hesh rounds, that's obviously a good game, and still lost quite a few credits. Certainly not the worst that'll happen. And for the last battle, right back in Desert Sands, and just again, kind of a different. I like showing battles off this map because it's more challenging. It's really the opposite of what this tank is built to do. It's not made to brawl. It's not made to sit right in front at close range with other tanks. But if I hang back, I'm either not going. I'm going to take my own gun out of the battle. Or possibly, get circled by mediums that are coming around because our team is kind of running to town. So instead I decide to set up in this area. Again, this is not a great side scraping tank because it just doesn't have the armor for it, but I'm just trying to minimize my cross section. So by just barely sneaking out, I'm able to keep not too much tank exposed. That was kind of a rough trade there because he got a nice big roll on me, but again was able to do more damage to him. So this lets me stay nice and protected, and also see where the battle is playing out. I can see most of their team is going to be in front of me. You still get those nice track shots every once in a while, and that's why I set up in this position, although then that E100 still pokes out and gets me again. I probably should go ahead and relocate here, but I don't like the way the tanks are sitting to my right, and I don't want to over kind of commit to a shift and get shot in the side just because I'm a one-shot for several tanks at this point. So I'm hoping to get that nice sneaky shot on the E100 and do just because I know exactly where he's popping out at. That's another good example. He could have easily relocated and not taken that shot, but we both were kind of digging in. Because he stays spotted, I'm able to watch and see that he is still looking at me. It's another good time. You have to be careful. If I tried to turn to my right, I would actually turn the back of my hull out and he'd be able to shoot it. So if I was going to relocate, I'd have to back up flush, which would be a little challenging. I see him focusing more on the other E100 and can go ahead and poke out even though the E100 actually gets the shot. He would have been dead regardless. And again, just now I'm watching the minimap and kind of reassessing where stuff's happening. I can see our mediums start to push up to the right a little bit, and the 268 on red is pushed back, so I can actually take the opportunity to relocate now a little bit. See the pattern. That was a Hesh shell, and the only reason I kept with that shell is because I didn't want to take the time to switch it. I was using both hands at the time, so I didn't want to waste it. Pulling forward because I can see E50 engaged with the J Panther, and I also know I can kill him in one shot no matter what I use. So now trying to poke back out, see the object turned, but he starts to turn again too much, so I don't get to use the Hesh shell. But that's okay, and rolling back, now I see that the J Panther's turned his attention to me, so that's why I pop Adrenaline. I can kill him in one shot with Hesh, but also he could two-shot me and has a great reload time. So just working for the spot and get the nice Hesh shell in. I just wanted the guarantee on that instead of accidentally possibly getting a low roll on the AP. So easy final kill at this point. And again, this is a game, it actually went pretty quick. Didn't fire that many shells, but it's just about making them count and kind of minimizing your damage. So I'm actually trying to steal the kill there, but it's okay. Only because you only get so many shots with the Star Destroyer. Sometimes and you're trying to do the most damage possible. Frequently don't get a ton of kills, but high damage. So I'll take it anytime I can get. So anyway, hope this appeases some people on some nice 183 gameplay, and enjoy killing some stars.